make it to this call, and we'll need to watch this. But yeah, great to have you all here. We're a lot of you all were, with being part of the expedition this fall, saw, or part of the lecture where we talked about the IMLS project and what we're doing with digitizing some of our legacy unit data. And what I wanted to do was to use this as an opportunity to onboard folks that are interested in volunteering and haven't done any volunteering before, but then also for folks that have done a little bit of volunteering, like you, Debbie, but haven't really got into it enough to really be able to, to be in the full swing of it. And what we're doing for the digitizing of all these records is it's a two-step process. The first step is hey Greta, is relabeling. Hey Margaret, how are you all doing? Is relabeling the files, and that's what we're going to go over today. And then once the files are relabeled, then actually digitizing all of that data, which basically means transcribing the strata cards into GIS as the final step. And so we're going to do 2 training sessions. We're going to do the relabeling today and talk about that. That'll be for the Northwest Yard. And then once you all get to the point with the Northwest Yard that you're done with all the relabeling, then we'll do another training session on digitizing. So we'll make these two separate trainings. So there's not a so we can not overload you with information. So but what I thought I would do is go ahead and share screens and show you all, basically where we are at with the project. So I will go ahead and do that now. Let's see. So what you should be able to see now. Can you all see the IMLS current map right here? Is that appearing on everybody's screen? Cool.
Yes.
Yeah.
All right. Well, this is the map of the main house. This rather weird looking color coded map. If I turn off the project areas, it might make a little more sense. Like here's the outlines of the main house right here. The front portico, the front columns of the portico are right here. And here's the visitor path in front of the house going out to the front yard. And if you, with this map, if you look at all of the squares, of course, all these squares are our excavation units, and the ones that are shaded in green are the ones for which we've actually digitized in all the unit stratum. So these are, everything from, let's see, this is the Madison West Yard. Some of the units here, unit 619 right here for this one right here. And there's about, there's about 5 different strata in this one that are all digitized. And then all of the photos that are all relabeled are listed right here, like an opening photo for MT619A. And that's in this one because this is for stratum A. And this relabeling of the photos, that's what we're going to go into today. So for this, what you'll notice is when you get into areas up in the northern part of the yard around the main house, we've got the Northwest Yard right here and the north portico that have not been digitized yet. And if you look at the projects, here's how they're organized. That what's in green right here, this is the north portico, and it turns out it's one of the few sites we don't have a report. That's where DJ just put a trowel there to designate it as not having a report. There's actually a Word file that's a summary of that one that I'm going to upload. But then for the Northwest Yard, this is the site we're going to be tackling first with the new volunteer project. And these are the excavations for a set of sites that are all associated with the 18th century main house. So the building that's right here, the foundations of this structure right here, this rectangular structure, this was a building that was in front of the main house, the 1765 core. throughout the 18th century. And then this building was torn down when the wing was added in 1810. And so it's all these units right here that allowed us to make this discovery. And these units, what they consist of, if you look at the map right here, this area that's in gray, there's unit numbers that are in the 1600s. So all these were excavated in, let's see, those were excavated in the 2009 season. And then there are some of these that are in the 400s. Those were excavated in the 2002 season. And so there's a mixture of different, years of excavations. And because of that, the earlier seasons have excavation cards, where the later ones, the unit stratum sheets are actually sheets. And I'll show you some of this in a second. So basically what we do is like all of these, like this area right here of the Northwest Yard, this is organized in the Google Drive in its own folder. So and kind of for accessing all this stuff, this is where we're using the unit record relabeling guide, which is what I sent you all yesterday. This Google Doc is kind of the base camp for this. Eventually, what I want to do is make a web page out of this, probably in GIS, where it'll be a little more attractive. But this works for right now for getting you all started. But in this unit record naming manual, what we've got is this first area right here is the different teams that are involved. So you've got the Northwest Yard. This is for the new MAAP team members project. These are most of you all. And then the next group is Experienced MAAP Team Project. This is about 5 or 6 folks like Dean and Kathy and Beth and a couple of other folks that have been doing this digitizing for a number of years. And so they're working on some separate smaller projects. But for this case, what you all are working on is the Northwest Yard. And then there's even a team from Wake Forest. This is the a group that's being led by Terry Brock, who's at Wake Forest now, and his students are digitizing the tobacco or the field quarter as part of the home farm. So what you do when you're, to get into this, go into where all the files are, is basically you click on this link right here. And what this does is it takes you to the Google Drive. And then this is all the units associated with the Northwest Yard and what the status is of this project. So if we go back to this IMLS map and we look at the Northwest Yard, you'll see there are units like 1603, 1614, 1596. And when you look at here, you can see all these units are in these individual folders. And so, for example, if we go into MT 1596, these are all the records that are associated with that one unit, 1596, and none of them have been labeled. So this is where we need to go through and label all these. But before you start jumping right into the labeling, there's a couple of things that you need to do. And for navigating the Google Drive, if you click on this Northwest Yard, that takes you back to the overall project with all the file folders. But one of the things that you'll want to do is if you look at the at this, how to name photos, strata cards, images, and other items in unit folders. This basically takes you through the process of how to do the relabeling. So this talks about, before you're going to the relabeling, look at the overall shots and the stratum and the field guides for each folder. And that's in each of these folders. So in this case, you've got the Northwest Yard report that's right here. This is a 162-page report of the Northwest Yard. And what's nice about these is it goes over some of the previous archaeology that happened. So from the 90 and 2002 excavations, so you can review that. and it gives an executive summary, which is basically the findings of what was there. So that's a short and sweet summary of all this stuff. And I sent you all yesterday the one-page summary of the Northwest Yard, which is from the archaeology booklet. So that gives you kind of an idea of this as well. The other document that's in here is a guide to field methods. And this is handy because this goes over basically how we were doing our unit excavations in the 2009 season. So it talks about, when and how to take photographs, the paperwork, plan views, and field drawings. It explains all this stuff at the level of how to do it, but it's also a nice guide when you're looking at these records. So, and then the final one is the purveyance list. And this Google Doc or this Google Sheet right here is an alphabetical list of all the purveyances. And this is where, like, if we started doing the relabeling, we're going to do relabeling for MT 1596. So I'm going to start and look at 1596 right here. And here's all these strata. MT 1596 O, A, B, C, D. And what you're going to do is, as you relabel these items, you're going to put in your initials like MBR, and then any notes that are associated, like problems or questions you might have with it. So let's go to let's go over some of the relabeling. Keep on going through this manual. So in this, what it says is pick a unit folder in the project folder and put the initials IP and your initials after it. And basically what this does is, like, for example, I'm going to do as an example MT 1596. What you want to do is relabel this, and you can do rename here, or you can go right here and right click and do rename. There's a couple of different ways you can navigate these things, but I'm going to rename it here, and I'm going to do IP and then MBR. And what this tells you is that this unit is being relabeled. And not that people get territorial about their units, but it's more just to let so somebody doesn't start relabeling a unit that somebody's in progress and things get confused. A lot of times, there'll be issues with a unit that go between layers, and that's where it's just good to have everybody have their own unit. Now, this doesn't mean when this one is digitized that the same person who relabeled it will digitize it. Everything kind of starts over again at that point. But so for MT 1596, we'll go into this one and we'll begin to relabel. And what we'll do with that is what you're going to want to do is, look at the purveyance list that's in the Google Sheet. And so we did that. We're at 1596. It looks like everything is pretty straightforward here for 1596 all the way through layer G. And and what you'll want to do is if there is a name on the photo or on the stratum card that's different than what's on this list, you want to use what's on the list. Because this Google Sheet right here, this is tied to the database. And what we want to be able to do is have what you all enter into GIS match what's in the database, because that will allow those two to be tied. And this is kind of it's a special feature of relational databases, that if you have two fields that you relate, if you have a field from two separate tables that you're using it to connect the tables, the values in those fields have to be exact. So it's kind of like, looking up your name on a sheet. It needs to be not Matthew Reeves if it's listed on the sheet as Matt Reeves. It needs to be Matt Reeves. So capitalization, even a period at a place, makes a difference with all this. So what we'll do is go to this unit sheet and or the folder and start doing the relabeling process. And for the relabeling process, there's a couple of things to bear in mind that you need to do some housework before you start doing the relabeling. One is that in some cases, there are duplicate photos in some folders, especially some of the older ones. This is kind of there's not going to be a lot of cases of this in the Northwest Yard, but you'll run into this. And an example of this can be seen in MT 632. And this is one from the south. Oh, this is one from the north portico as an example. And for this one, for example, this is the opening shot for layer for the surface, opening surface. And the next photo is the opening surface again, and things are slightly off. And so with this one, what you'll want to do in this case is you're going to want to select the photo that has most of the unit in the frame. So in this case, between these two, this one, the unit isn't all the way in the frame, but this one, it's all the way in the frame. And since both of these are labeled opening surface, what you can do is go in and delete one of these. And in this case, these are just slightly off. I am going to go ahead and remove this one, this one right here. And if you ever have questions about it, just ask a question about it. There's some other examples that are a lot more clear, like these ones right here, these photos of opening of Strat A, these two right here are pretty much exactly the same. You can see they shift a little, and basically pick the one that has the best lighting and is the least off angle. And between these two, it's pretty hard to tell which one to pick. It doesn't really make that much difference in this case. So I'm going to remove this one right here. So basically go through and do some weeding of your photos. And again, there's going to be cases where this happens and other cases that it doesn't. And then there's some, for example, if you get into this one right here, this is opening of Strat C, and this one is opening of Strat C. If it's something where, this one where you feel like it shows a lot more of the adjacent unit and it's just a little bit different, what you could do is you could label this one as your main one and then label this one as number 2. And I'll get into that in 1 second. So it doesn't make a lot. If you have doubts about deleting it, what you could always do is label it number 2. But remember, if you delete these photos, we have these backed up elsewhere. So, if you accidentally delete something, just let us know and we retrieve it. But, for things that are pretty subtle with some of these strata, where it just shows dirt, there's some dirt shown, and the other photo has a little bit more dirt shown, don't sweat it, because it's, sometimes there's multiple photos taken in the field. Is that clear? Does that make sense to you all? Anyway, I heard somebody sigh. Good.
I think that was me that sighed.
Okay, good.
And I think it'll make more sense once I start doing it.
Yeah. This is like riding your bike. Until you do it, it makes a lot more sense. So, and again, we've got a whole, let me, hold on, I'm going to turn off hide floating tools. We've got a whole conversation group that we do in Slack that I'll show you right after this, where you can ask questions and you can kind of put a unit that you're labeling on hold until that question gets answered. And I'll show you that in a second. So there's ways, if you have questions, that they can be addressed pretty quickly. So that's what this is, this section on duplicate photos. Yeah, and for the part with about where you have questions, I'll show you that in a second. Let's see, this will be covered in the closing. Completed, yeah, volunteer hours. I'll get into that after this, but what I want to go over next is the file name structure. And for the file name structure, and can you all still see my screen?
Yes.
Yeah, okay, great.
Yeah.
For the file name structure, this is the designation system for this, which is MT1234, you know, the MT number, the strata, and then this last one is what kind of record it is. So if we look at some things that have been relabeled, we'll go to the North Portico here. And these ones that have been relabeled and go into 1262. So you can see here for MT1262, here's the unit number, the strata, and then this last designation, this one is CA for card, this one is PH for photo. This is how these things are relabeled. This is all, the designations for these are all right here with this file name structure. So for the summary of paperwork codes, these are all these abbreviations right here that are in the quotes. So you've got, and this is a page you might just want to print out and have beside you when you're doing the labeling. So you've got, in fact, I've got mine printed out right here, and I'll be going over this while we label the relabel MT 1596. So what I'll do is, rather than go through all these in detail, I'll do it when we do the labeling. Most of the ones you're going to be using are CA for card and then PH for photo. And the most common one is the PH, which is for opening photo. And basically every single stratum has an opening photo. And then there's some other photo types in here that sometimes occur, you know, for features. Sometimes there'll be a PH closing, or sometimes there'll be a closing photograph for a strata just for whatever reason, but usually there's just an opening one. Sometimes if there's something interesting, like, you know, like if there is a fork or a wine bottle seal found in situ, you'll have an in situ shot that'll be taken. And a lot of times it'll be one of the whole unit and then a close-up of the artifact. And for that, you'll do, you know, PH, you know, in situ for the main one, and then for the close-up, do PH in situ too. And then sometimes there's in progress shots, and we'll see some examples of that. And then some of the other ones for the graph paper are PV for plan view. Another one, which is a photo of an in situ artifact, is PI. And then another one is AR for artifact photos. And so these are for, you know, ones that are a lot of times that are associated with strata. But then this list right here are designations that are given for record types that are associated with the unit as a whole and not a particular unit strata. So like, for example, a side profile has about can have upwards of 6 or 7 unit strata in it. So it's not associated with one unit strata, it's associated with the unit as a whole. And so what we do with all these is before the code for the paperwork type, we put this underscore, and when you list these, it puts these all at the top of the file structure. So if I go to an example of a unit at the North Kitchen, for example, you can see with these, like, here's the summary sheets. You know, this is the summary for the unit, the summary sheet. That's the one pager that has, you know, the summary, and then the sample form. And this one happens to have a continuation of the summary form, and so it's the unit, and that's why it's called summary 2. And then you get the Harris matrix. Here's a feature summary, and this is for the cut of the feature, so it's not necessarily associated with one strata. Here's the closing of the feature, and then it's not until you get all the way, and then here's this one is a profile shot of the east wall. So here's the east wall profile, but it's not until you get down to like the third line that you start to get into the actual strata, the cards, you know, the strata excavation sheets or cards, and then the opening photo, for example, for A. So all this other stuff, since it has an underscore, it moves itself to the top of the folder. So it's all up there. And then once you get down to the strata, these are all organized by like O, A, B, C, you know, D, and so forth as they were excavated. And so basically it makes it so that the records are just a little more organized. You know, it's both the name itself, you know, these names are have all the metadata for the unit and the strata. And then finally, this third one is the actual record type that's there. So anybody have any questions about this before we go into example of 1596?
No.
Cool. And again, probably the best thing to do is to print out that page that has all these record types. And again, if you get into this and you have questions, you know, I'll show you how to ask those kind of questions. So for 1596, and then for this unit relabeling guide, the rest of this is just some examples that are there. And really a good way to do this is to, you know, look at some of the examples that are already labeled, and it can give you an idea of how this stuff is done. But for 1598, so we'll start with this one right here. Again, MT 1596 is one of these units that's in the Northwest Yard. And if you look at this one, here it is right here, 1596. It's got what turns out to be a feature. That's what these yellow things are, a feature that was dug through it, which is one of the planning holes from the Pine Alley. And when you start looking at these records, you know, what you'll notice is that all of the scanned paper records right now, just because how they're named with the year, date, and month and the time, are all first, and then the photos come next. And what we're going to do is you can get an idea of what paperwork is here. And probably the easiest thing to do is to start with, you know, the excavation data, like the unit strats. So we'll go to the first sheet here. This one is strat 0. And we're going to want to relabel this. So you click on the file name here. You can either click here, or you can go to rename right here. But if you click right here, this is kind of handy because it changes it to this. And this is going to be MT 1596. And then it's, oops, want to have it be capitalized. MT 1596.0. And that your, the stratum 0 is actually a 0. If you put it as an O, alphabetically, that would come after N and before P, so it would throw it off. So that's why we use the 0 as that designation. And then this one, if you look at your sheet, this is a card, so it gets labeled CA. And what you don't want to do is change the name of the extension, because that tells the computer obviously what kind of file it is. So you leave that alone. And so now this is changed, and when we go into the sheet or the list here, this is now appearing all the way at the bottom because it's after all these, you know, in terms of alphabetically. And basically what you'll do is gradually all this stuff is going to sort itself out. And let's see, for this one, it doesn't appear that there's an opening photo for O, so we don't need to worry about that. There is one for A, and here's A right here. We're going to relabel this one MT1596.A.ca and make sure there's no spaces in there. And then we're going to find the opening for A. It's right here, and it looks like this one needs to be rotated, but we'll do that later. This is MT1596.A, and I got my caps locks on, so that's messing me up. MT, make sure it's, all in caps. And again, to check on this, what you're going to want to do is go to your Google Sheet. And each time we do this, we're going to put in our initials. And for O, we're going to say missing opening photo. Just to note that. And you'll see that the designations here are O and capital A. We're following this convention that's right here. And we'll just keep on chugging down the line. So let's see, this one is layer B. So this is MT1596.B.ca. And then we'll go and yeah, this one is the B, the opening for B, if MT1596.B.ph. So, and then just keep on doing this. And as you go along, these are all going to start to assemble themselves at the bottom.
Hey, Matt, you didn't put the pH on the A photo.
Oh, thank you. Yeah, you're absolutely right. So this one, MT1596 pH. Let's see, which one did I miss here? Oh, the A. I got you. Yeah. Yeah, thank you, Margaret. pH. And I am the kind of person that I need to do this and not do two things at once. And right now I'm doing two things at once. I'm talking with you all and doing the relabeling. So somebody should come along behind me that has more experience and check this. So thank you, whoever does that. And then as an example of some of these other, records that are here, this one right here, for example, is but for these others, you just go through all the stratum sheets and relabel them. But there's other records in here like plan views, like this one is a plan view, and then this one is a profile. And for example, for this profile right here, this one is the east wall profile of 1596. So to relabel this one, we go MT 1596 dot underscore, because there's no strata associated with it. This is one for the unit as a whole. And then this is a profile drawing. It's the east wall, so you put E, and then it's a D for drawing. And if you look at your unit relabeling thing right here, you can see right here, PXD for unit profile drawings. Profile X is the direction, the cardinal direction, and then D is drawing. And so that gets relabeled. And usually there should be a photo of that same wall that's shown. And let's see. Here's the south wall. Here's the east wall profile. So we'll relabel this one MT 1596 dot underscore. And for the profile, you just put P and then E. And again, that comes from this right for unit profile photos right there. X is the direction. And then enter. And then what you'll see, which is kind of slick, is that these two will now be side by side. And you can, compare them and see that they're basically the same. So basically what you're doing in many ways as you relabel these is you're creating a unit summary history of everything that happened in this unit. And as you relabel them, they're all going to go in consecutive order. Like all the profiles are going to be appearing first, and then the excavated strata will follow after that. And so some of the other ones that are here, this is a unit summary form. And for the unit summary form, that one is the designation for that one is the summary sheet. So it's a summary. And when we go into this one, we relabel this one, this would be MT 1596 dot, and I just copy this a summary.pdf. And this has two sheets to it, but it's a PDF, and that's why it's a PDF, because it has the two sheets. And then this one, this is later C, so I won't worry about that one for right now. But this is here's another sheet right here. Oh, actually the Harris matrix. This is a good one. This is the unit stratigraphy matrix. This one right here. This one is called B Harris matrix for the matrix paperwork. And this guy is MT 1596 dot Harris matrix. And B is just so it appears after A. And you'll see that, again, when you start looking at these unit records, down here, you start to see there's a summary, there's the Harris matrix, here's the profile. It's starting to build this unit history right here, which is really cool. Because basically what we're going to do is one of the last things we're going to do is compile all these records together into a single PDF, and that'll be a unit summary for all this, in addition to being able to pick out each individual unit strata and then digitize it in GIS. Here's a profile right here that produces an interesting conundrum. You've got two unit profiles right here. One is MT 1601 and another one is 1596. And technically, this should go in MT 1596 and an MT 1601. So in this case, what you'd want to do, let's go to MT 1601 and make sure this profile is there. So what we're going to do is we're going to venture out of 1596 and go to 1601. Here's 1601. And let's see, yeah, it looks like it's duplicated right here. And this one hasn't been rotated yet, but it'll be rotated by folks. So it looks like it's here. It's good to check, because what we wouldn't want to do is to have this one be just in 1596 and then no one know that it's a profile for 1601. So for this one, this is the north wall profile. So we're going to label this MT 1596 dot underscore profile N for the north wall, and then D for drawing. So even though it has two units in it, we're going to give it the name of the unit we're in, because basically we're treating it as a single profile in this case. And then what we can do is look for the photo of that guy. And this one, south wall 1596 north wall. And I did say that was the north wall, wasn't it? The profile that was drawn. Okay. And so this one, MT 1596 dot underscore P N, and then it's just a photo. And now this one appears next to its profile drawing. So there's the north wall, and then there's the north wall drawing right here. And you can tell this one got added in later, when these were being excavated. So So anyways, that's the basic gist of it. There's some other examples in here, if I'm just perusing through this, where you can see there's all these photos of bricks that are here. And this is this one for MT, this photo right here is an in progress shot of MT 1596.f2. And so this could be done in a couple of different ways. I mean, sometimes if there wasn't anything of like a cool artifact, like if it was a feature, you'd label it just as, you know, in progress too. So this photo right here, which is F2, is going to be labeled MT 1596.f2.ph and then in progress. And that is taken from right here, pH in progress, right here, in progress. And so that's all good and well. And the next shot that's right here is a detail of that. And you could label this in progress too, or you could label this an in situ shot, which is pH in situ. And which one you do really doesn't matter. I always prioritize the in situ because in situ artifacts are just kind of cool, and it's kind of a different designation. But the most important thing is that you relabel it and you don't delete the file. That's all that matters. I mean, no matter how you label it, it's going to be saved, and it's going to be part of, it'll be listed alphabetically. So this one is going to be MT 1596 dot did I say F2? And then let me check pH in
Yeah, it was F2.
It was F2. Okay, cool, thanks. So pH in situ, and let's go back and make sure that's right. Yeah, pH in situ. And now when you look at the listing,
I think that should be dot underscore F2.
no, because F
No.
F is a strata, not a feature.
Oh, sorry.
Yeah, that's a good point. Yeah, what Dean's
Yeah.
saying is if this was a feature, you'd want to put an underscore. So, and that's because features are treated as part of the overall unit. What's nice about the post 2006 era is every single strata, whether it was in a unit or in a feature, got its own letter. So it makes things a lot more straightforward. And that's where the earlier years got a little confusing, but yeah, just it's a strata. So let's see, the only other so yeah, back to this one. There's another photo right here of the same jumble of rubble. This one is actually, what this is a photo of is a coping brick right there. One of the molded bricks for the portico. And then this one, this is a photo of a compass brick right here. So this one would be MT 1596.f2.pH in situ 2. And now that's going to appear right beside F2 in situ. So, and then the final one that's out here is these plan views. And this one is a plan view. And this is of this feature right here. And it's also of stratum E and G. And what you want to prioritize is features. So for this one, I'm going to relabel this one MT 1596 dot underscore, and this is what you were talking about, Dean. F oh gosh, what was the feature? 981. So MT 1596 dot underscore 981, and then .pv for plan view. And the strats E and G in this case are the stratum that were excavated as part of feature 981. Don't worry about if it's a plan view of just unit stratum, you go ahead and use the unit stratum. If it's just a feature, you do the feature. And again, with questions on this, go ahead and put that into the Slack commentary. So, and then here's that feature relabeled. So we've gone through this, and say, for instance, if I had a question about this one, whether to relabel this one as the feature or the stratum, what I do is go ahead and do everything that you know how to do on doing the relabeling. And then what you'd want to do is go back to when you're done with this, is if I was done and didn't have any questions, I would scoot this folder over to complete and just hit move, and now it's in complete. It's in the complete folder. But in this case, I had questions about this one because there was the issue with that plan view about whether to label the plan view as the stratum or the feature. The answer is the feature, but if you did have questions about it, you could put it into problems for relabel. And then that's going to identify it as a problem that needs to be addressed. And this is where the Slack channel comes in handy. And let's see. Under Slack here, this is where under relabel, I'd put in, hey, Matt, there was a plan view in MT 1596. Was not sure how to relabel, whether by the feature number or strata. And then I could answer the question in that case. So, and I'll send you a link for how to use the Slack channel, because it's a pretty handy way to discuss things and ask questions. I'm not going to hit enter on this because I'll hit enter, and then I'm going to go ahead and delete this one. So you can edit messages or delete them. I'm going to delete this guy because I don't need to be talking to myself. And let's go back. I'm going to put this one back in the northwest yard here. And so that's, pretty much the process for, doing the labeling. And what we want to end up with is all these folders ending up either in complete or problems. And then if I answer your question about a problem one, what you can do is you can move it out of, say, for instance, this one right here, if it was in problems. And then we went in and did the correction to it, like went in and corrected whatever needed to be done, and it was all complete. What you can do is you can take this and scoot it over back to the northwest yard. Oh boy. Yeah, move, and then go to northwest yard. And now we could scoot this over to complete. I'll move it back out because it's not complete. But and sometimes it doesn't want to do it. You have to wait till it asks. Yeah, move. And then the goal is to empty this out until everything's incomplete. And then we'll know, then we're done, and then we'll do the digitizing. And one of the last things to do with all this is in this list right here is your volunteer hours. This is the link for your volunteer hours is right here. And this is a Google sheet. And basically you just go down to the bottom here and enter in your name and the date 11/3/2022, and then the number of hours. I did an hour today. And you can see you can also see, like, you know, most of the folks doing this work recently have been Kathy, Dean, and Beth. And it looks like, Nicole, you need to put your hours in here. So that's important, because this is actually, this goes towards, you know, us tracking our hours, and it's also a match for this IMLS grant. So this is a huge help to have all these hours recorded. So, but that's, you know, the basic gist for doing the relabeling. Does anybody have any questions on all this?
Matt, I noticed on the example you were showing us, you were doing like the strat cards, then the photos, or a single strat. Is there any reason we can't just go and start at the very first one and rename it and just go down the line rather than skipping around?
Whatever your heart desires, Debbie, you can
Okay.
do whatever you like. I like doing all the strata first because it's easy, and I've got a simple little mind, and then I can just do the cards, and then I see what's left, and I get to the complicated stuff on the end. But if you, it's what you can do it in any order that you want.
Okay. And will one of the very nice people who has been doing this for a long time, would they be available to check my work until I feel like I know what I'm doing?
Absolutely. And
Okay.
what you could do is you could either scoot, once you're done with your folder, you could scoot it into the problems folder and just put a note in the Slack and say, you know, could one of you all check my relabeling of 1596?
Okay.
And then Dean would go in there and check it and be like, it's good, Debbie. And then what you could do is take your initials off it. And that's one thing that I'll show you that you'll want to do. Let me share screens again. Is oh, let's see that. Is once you're done, like with 1596, let me move it back into the Northwest yard because it's not complete. Is when you're done, before you move it over to complete, what you'll want to do is go to rename and then just take your initials off it and then hit OK. I'm going to hit cancel because I don't want to relabel it. And then what'll be in completely relabel is everything without the initials, because when we start to do the digitization, we're going to start this all over again. I'm going to move all the folders out into this base one, and then I'm going to have a complete digitize and a problems digitize. So we'll go through the process, but with digitize.
Okay, I just got lost on that last part about taking the initials off when it's done.
Oh yeah, basically
confused.
it's the last step to do when you put it, once you're finished with the folder, is you just take your initials off it.
Oh, okay.
That's just
Once it's totally complete. Okay.
Yeah.
So once your initials are off, you do that when it's completely done
And it's in the complete
and
folder.
correct and complete, then lose the initials.
Right. That's
So
right.
that's only to identify that one of us is working on that folder.
Exactly. And then once it's in the complete, because, and you could probably just do that when you scoot it over to the complete folder, number one, you could go into the complete folder and take your initials off it. And again, with any of this, if you have questions, put them in the Slack. And that's, I'm gonna sign you all up on the Slack channel, so you'll be ready. You'll be ready to go. So, and actually, once you're ready to go, drop me an email and say you're ready to be in the Slack channel. And does everybody have a Google, a Gmail, a Google Gmail?
Oh, yeah.
You do? Okay. I don't, Dean, were you able to do this with your non-Google email, or did you have to get a Google email?
I was using Paula's for a while, and then I got my own.
Okay, yeah, Gmail is free, but and for those of you all that are in the recording, having a Gmail just makes it a lot easier to do this process, because there are workarounds, but it's kind of tough to not have have it using a Gmail.
So do you need our Gmail address?
Yeah,
or-
exactly.
Okay.
Thank you. That's the whole. Thank you. That's the whole point of this, Debbie. Is send me an email with your Gmail address that you'll be using, because I want to register you all as editors.
Okay.
And I think for a couple of you all, I have it like obviously Dean, Nicole, Margaret, and Peggy, and Webster. You're already in there, and Vivian, I don't know if you're in there already or not. I'm not sure. So cool.
Yeah, I have to check on that one. I don't have a Gmail account that I know of. I don't know. My husband gets me all sorts of accounts, and I keep saying, "Can I keep it simple?"
All right, gonna make it complex for you. So
Yeah, he's an engineer. What do you expect?
that explains a lot.
That explains a lot.
Awesome.
Also,
I have one.
go ahead.
Can
I get a printout of all the sheets you were showing us on the labeling, what the label photos, cards, and whatnot? Because I think I had one and I lost it somewhere.
That is in that. That's in the document. That's I'll put this in the link, but it's in the email I sent you last night.
Okay.
Which is the unit copy link. I'm copying the link right now to the chat. This is the base document for everything. This is kind of the mothership. That one right there in the chat. And that one will take you to the current folder and directions, the whole 9 yards.
Okay.
As crude of a mothership as that is, it is the mothership for everything. That's why I'd like to set up a web page for this instead of a Google Doc. It's pretty primitive, very 1990s, if you will. So, all right. Did someone else have a question?
Yeah, I had a question. So what you consider a complete set is, I just want to confirm, a card and a photo of each layer, strata layer, but it doesn't have to necessarily have a plan view or a profile wall, or does it have to?
It doesn't have to. Technically, any of these units, I would be surprised if there were if they didn't have a profile. They should have at least one profile. And if you have questions about it, just drop me a line in the Slack. But if you're looking at the records and it notes that there's a profile and it's not there, ask me about it. And if you're the only strata that's sometimes does not have a photo is the opening O. Sometimes it doesn't get a photo, but everything else should have a photo. And there's been ones that are missing, and I've been able to dig them out of the deep recesses of the digital archive and find it. So, or sometimes there's a unit that has no photos, and that's a real red flag. So.
Okay, thank you.
And just to confirm, we're not actually using the letter O, we're using the number 0. Is that correct?
Exactly, Webster. We're using for the first layer, it's the numeric 0. Now, there are some exceptionally complex units where you go up to stratum M, N, and then O. And in that case, that's the letter O. And that's where we want to use 0 for the opening. And also just alphabetically, it puts it in its right place.
Thanks.
Okay. All right. Well, awesome to have you all start joining this. And again, for those of you all that are listening to the recording, go ahead and send me your Gmail, and I'll put you into the Google folder and then into the Slack chat, and we'll get you all started. So excited for this. Awesome. And so we're all done. What I'll do is, Dean and Nicole, if you want to stay on, I'll talk to you all about the about rotating photos, because there's there's some issues on some of the photos that need to be rotated and converted to JPEGs that I'll talk to Nicole and Dean about. So, but and that does one thing that that if you ever see a photo that is at a 90-degree angle like the writing is, you can download it, rotate it, and then upload it. So don't feel like that would be a huge help if you ever see that and you want to do that. And if you need help with that, let us know. And what I'm talking to Dean and Nicole about is something that is symptomatic of all the things that are recently scanned that they're going to go through and correct. But just in general, like there was the one photo of the strata where the writing was sideways, like the photo was taken, but somehow the photo got rotated later on. But if you do see that, that'd be great. So, all right. Well, bye everybody. And Dean and Nicole, if y'all hang on for 1 minute, we can talk about the PDFs. So thanks everybody.
Okay, thanks, Matt.
All right.
Thanks,
Bye.
Matt.
Bye.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
Bye.